Fellas, hi. So, let's talk rebalance. So we had 4 descendants rebalance. Freyna, my main. Lepic, that he's been taking dust for like a year now. Bunny, which I've used very little, and Blair, which I didn't use too much. But these 4 descendants have seen some of them have seen a change in how they work, and there's a bit of diversity in their builds. Others have just been slightly tweaked in numbers. So let's go with order. First of all, Freyna, right? I know Freyna. I play Freyna most of the time. She's my main, so she's the one that I have the most expertise on. And, well, I have thoughts. As you do. Yeah, level 11, of course. And my thoughts ain't that difficult, really. It's kind of easy. Ooh. She hasn't seen any change. Let's start that, okay? So Freyna is gonna be fairly brief. The only thing she does, she works exactly the way she worked before. The only change is that her DOTs, well, let me maybe take Contagion off. Her DOTs, all of them, Room Zero Trauma and the Toxic Puddle, and the DOTs that the extra DOTs she does over time, like Panic or Decay or Nightmare, have seen an increase about, and they added a 20% extra damage. So she hits slightly harder, in the sense that, you know, the DOTs are a bit harder. Instead of 100, they hit for 20,000, 25,000, 30,000 extra damage. That's it. I'm not even really joking. The biggest change has been in Venom Baptism. Venom Baptism went from 700% skill multiplier, skill power multiplier, to 1000, which is about 30% increase in damage. So Venom Baptism is now hitting a bit harder. Now, I've done some testing, and there is almost no way, except for 2 people that I don't know how legit they are. I have their exact build down to a T for the Stormhanger, and Venom Baptism cannot down in 3 psychos under a minute the Stormhanger. Not reliably. There's a series of coincidences and contexts that need to happen. So she does a fair bit more damage, but not much more than before. Freyna was okay even before, don't get me wrong. She was good. So this is just a little bit better. Where Freyna really lacked a bit was Venom Baptism. In what sense? The cooldown on Venom Baptism is pretty high. So you can't really use it too reliably. The lowest cooldown you can get is 14 seconds, 15 seconds. Which, through a lot of hard work with multi-talented and the use of her second, you can get it down to 11 seconds. I think that's the lowest you can get it. But it's hardly a spammable skill. And the damage is good, but I'm using Nell as a benchmark, and she's not there. Not even by the stretch. She doesn't mob as fast as Nell, and she doesn't kill Stormhanger as fast as Nell. And she's Toxin. Stormhanger is weak against Toxin. So technically speaking, she should be better. But I digress. Keelan does it in 10 seconds, and Freyna does it in a minute and a half. And that's the regular one. Nell does it in 15 seconds. Now I'm using Nell as benchmark because she's good at bossing, she's good at elite, and she's good at mopping. So I'm using her speed kind of like where I think everybody should be. However, that doesn't mean Freyna is really that bad. It's bad compared to Nell. But if you look at a 2-minute clean for Stormhanger, for example, Freyna can do that with ease. Not pushy too much, fairly comfortable. When you look at the action planes, she can do that fairly easy. Venom Baptism now hits pretty decently, and I love it. But I have just one tiny disappointment, and that is that Toxic Mixture hasn't seen any change, Neurotoxin hasn't seen any change, and everything, Contagion also hasn't seen any change. So pretty much everything else stays the same. That's it about Freyna, not much. When it comes to Bunny, really, I don't see much difference in Bunny either. Basically, you either use Electric Condense or High Voltage. The only difference is that High Voltage now hits a bit harder, and although it doesn't hit too many enemies, now it hits 4 monsters instead of 3, and your Thrill Bomb now has a 1200 skill power modifier, which is huge, and you hit 6 enemies, or if you have High Voltage on, that also is 4 enemies. But 4 enemies is better than 3, so you know, you pretty much already clean half of the mobs that you would usually clean. And skill power at 425 is pretty good, so I would say that's a bit of extra damage there. The regular damage of her lighting emission is good. Her fourth ability has seen a lot of change in the sense that the laser, it's now 3500 damage. However, it doesn't feel like it. I don't know why it doesn't feel like it hits so hard. I was in the action planes hitting an elite with a skill and hardly did anything, you know. And kind of meh. With Electric Condense, you know, it's kind of usable. You kind of clean the elite while lighting emission gets rid of the mob, and everything else stays much of the same. Like nothing has changed in the electric, bionic, or the transition. There's bunnies like Freyna, a bit of a tweak and push up in damage, like 10-20%, and that's it. Blair probably has gotten the shortest end of the stick because I haven't used him much, but as far as I can tell, Truly Deadly Cuisine was already hitting for 1700, 17,100 skill power modifier percentage. So basically it was already like 4 millions. They only added 500,000 extra, and I don't think Blair had a problem with the giant fireball damage. The problem, similar to Freyna, is the cooldown of these abilities, which is hardly spammable, and these are the only abilities that might be able to somehow compete with the likes of Nels and Serena and so on and so forth. So yeah, Freyna, Bunny, and Blair definitely not in the best. Incendiary Bomb, if I'm not mistaken, is pretty solid. Now you can push a bomb forward. It's a projectile, and then releases like the lava, the continuous flame zone on the floor, which is kind of okay. And the skill power of the continuous damage the burn has increased to 120%, which I think it's doubled. This one is pretty cool. Does semi-decent damage, but you now run. It's similar to the Venom Synthesis of Freyna. You run and you leave flame behind. And his third ability, Hot Delivery, now does a ton of damage. So this continuous damage is 885, which is huge. And the ticks are every quarter of a second. So that's a lot of damage, right? And it's fairly decent when it comes to cooldown and when it comes to range. So the Hot Delivery seems like a way to go around and just laugh and burn everything around you, be like a crazy chef. Let's talk about Lepic now, because he's the only one that has seen an actual overhaul. The other three are so-so, but Lepic, I'm really happy with it because he has seen a lot of changes. So First of all, his first ability, Grenade Throw, now does 2,884 damage, plus an additional 1,700 damage. And that is like, I don't know, if a 5 times increase. It's not like some 10-15%, that's a 500% increase. And that's crazy. Second ability now has changed. Now Overclock gives you a skill critical hit damage. That's an increase by 60%, which is really cool. And also gives you some movement increase, which means that now you hit Overclock and you can run a bit faster, so you don't have to stay behind if you have a bunny or a Nell running at super speeds, right? That's cool. So moving a bit high in speed and stuff, that's really cool. His third ability is pretty much unchanged, has a huge range and, you know, tows everybody and puts everybody in one place. And his Overkill, which has seen an increase in damage, but this was the build that we were using, the Mega Man gun that we were using, his ultimate weapon to defeat the bosses in the first part of the year. He was the way to go. This is his kit, and he's also immortal. So Lepic every 600 seconds, which this one goes down with a cooldown, so you can definitely manipulate this. But every, let's say, 3 minutes, if you receive fatal damage, once every 3 minutes, you become immune to damage for 5 seconds and you recover your HP. Need I say more? Pretty cool passive. Now, Firearms Master is now has changed quite a lot. First of all, what it does now when you reload your weapons, it gives you skill range increase. So that's a 55% increase in range for 8 seconds, always at your disposal. I highly suggest using this when you do mobbing and you want that extra range, especially with this, because 55 is nothing to scoff at. It's a bloody mod, right? Then, when using your one ability, your Grenade Throw, or your third ability, your Traction Grenade, you're gonna get a skill power, you're gonna get Throw Mastery, okay, for 8 seconds. While Throw Mastery is active and you use your ultimate, your exclusive weapon, you're gonna get an increase in skill power by 20%, not too shabby, and a 10% add on top of your skill critical hit raise. So you have about 46%, you get to 56%. You could probably push Lepic in the 60% area of crit hit rate, which is good. It's not 100% like Nell, but it's still decent. But also, when you use general rounds like assault rifles, you will get a multi-hit chance increase by 50%, similar to Serena. When you use special rounds, you get fire critical hit damage. And when you use impact rounds, you will get weak point damage, similar to what Nell does, a 30% increase in weak point damage, right? And when you use high power rounds, you have a reload time modifier. That's okay. It's not the best one, but whatever. So he becomes somehow somewhat viable when it comes to weaponry as well. And you also buff your fourth ability by quite a bit, which is good. So Firearm Master is pretty cool. The other ability that is absolutely insane and has seen an overhaul is increased efficiency. So this one changed his fourth ability, and now instead of consuming MP and consuming draining MP continuously and have a 14 seconds duration, you now don't have any more duration, so you use it unlimited. And every time you shoot your ultimate, you lose MP. So technically speaking, you can shoot, gain the MP back and shoot again, and you will never run out of MP, so you can technically use this forever. And basically has a cooldown of 0.3 seconds. You can use it almost always. You activate it and you just run around with it. And it does recover MP about 20% on critical hit at a chance of 30%. So there's like a 1 in 3 chance you get 20% of your MP back when you crit. It's not much, but it's good, especially if you hit those 55-60% crit rate numbers. And the burst damage on the weapon went from like 3, 4, 500, whatever it was, to 2,500, which is another 500% increase in damage. Probably a 600% increase in damage if we want to be honest. There's a fire rate of 50%, movement speed extra 200. There's a damage range explosion of 5 meters, and you can get that to probably like 15 meters, probably 10-15 meters. So that's pretty cool. I'm thinking this is gonna be a fairly reliable mobbing build, but you could also consider it for bossing in some circumstances, especially because this is gonna go in tandem with overconsumption, his second ability, which now doubles the damage of your critical hit increase by 120%. So usually it's 60% skill critical hit damage. Now it increases to 120%. So you basically do double the damage with your crits when you crit. It increases the cost by 70%. I think this one increases the cost, doesn't decrease the cost, but I'm not sure. I might be stupid. But it does increase your movement speed by 30%, so that's pretty cool. Instead of 20, it's 30%, so you are even a bit faster, right? And you get your burn, so that's that. And this could be possibly good for mobbing and bossing, but for mobbing is pretty cool because you'll just... right? You just hit the lads. And as long as you have MP, you can keep on going. Right? And if you don't run out of MP, you can go on forever. Now, obviously, this build has nothing on it, but if you had, this would have been pretty cool, right?
Shall we start?
I feel like this could be a fairly solid mobbing build. You see, on mobs, pretty much you can go on forever. Nerve infiltration. Hey, let me use nerve infiltration. Don't be a bastardo. Nerve infiltration changes his first ability. Now the first ability, the grenade, does 5,600. Ask me why. Ask me why. Do I know? I don't. I don't know. So you hit in a 20 meters radius for 5,000. Pretty good. And the explosive stacks, which this one is also a weird one. Basically what it does, it increases the cooldown by a metric ton. Now if you want 3 grenades, you need to double the range. If you don't want 3 grenades and you want only 2, you put only skill expansion, so you increase the range just a little bit. And when you run out of grenades, stacks, shoot and you get your stacks back. This potentially makes this skill spammable. You get the point. You see, this is how it works. So these are pretty much the changes to Lepic, which are consistent and are considerate. So there's a considerate amount of changes compared to Freyna, barely been touched, Bunny barely been touched, and Blair barely been touched. Lepic has been touched extremely. I reckon 3 builds that are very good are 1, Firearm Master, 2, increased efficiency for mobbing, and 3, explosive stack for the same reason. Just pretty much constantly shoot and then throw, which kind of makes sense if you want to be the futuristic descendant cowboy. That's it. These are the changes. I think this, if you don't get the gist yet, this works really well. This works really well with range and MP collector. I don't have any more rounds. What, are you crazy? Give me the rounds. I mean, I guess you see where this is going. And bear in mind, this is a non-built Lepic. So he's got potential. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I wish Freyna had received a similar kind of overhaul, at least to some of her transcendent mods. But you know, beggars can be choosers. So it's what it is. Let me know what you think, if you're okay with it. I mean, obviously you gotta be okay because Freyna, it's doing more damage, Bunny's doing the damage, Blair, it's kind of doing a bit more damage, and Lepic, it's now fun to use again. Don't even ask me about the lunch because I'm not even gonna. So there's nothing there. It's just a room. I'm not big fond of the lounge, but maybe in the future when you can personalize it and other people can visit, maybe hang out with people. But might be like a hub for a clan, a guild or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'll see you guys. Ciao. It's been my pleasure.